What's going on, everyone? So, according to Shams, the NBA is expected at some point this week to vote on a new policy that teams will be unable to rest two-star players in the same game. And according to Shams, under current discussions among teams and league personnel, a star is defined by someone who has made an all-star or all-NBA team in the past 3 seasons, sources said. So, obviously, this would have an impact on countless teams, right? One team that comes to mind is like the Clippers. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are out all the time together, and Kawhi Leonard, if he's not even remotely healthy, if he doesn't believe he's like 112%, he won't even like play 5 minutes. And so that would have an impact on a team like the Clippers, have an impact on several teams, but it would also have a big impact on the Lakers, right? Something that I've talked about even recently was that I could see the Lakers having nights where you're playing the Spurs or something like that, right? And it's like, hey, let's get LeBron and AD some rest. Or the Lakers have the most back-to-backs, right? And some of those back-to-backs are against, a lesser team and a really good team. And it's like, okay, well, we could just sit LeBron and AD for the first game, and then hopefully we win that one, and then they can come back for that back game against the tougher team, and now they can compete and we can go win, and hopefully we win both, right? But what this would do is this would make it so the Lakers wouldn't be able to do that. However, to me, how do they enforce that? Like, how do they do something like that? Right? I guess if it's like one game, right, then I guess you could get in trouble and fined. But like, if LeBron and Anthony Davis both have injuries and the medical staff is written off on it, like, what, the NBA is going to fine the Lakers for that? Like, and that goes for any team, not just the Lakers. I mean, any team, period. Any team that has multiple All-Stars on it or multiple All-NBA teams, right? Because it just, I don't know how you enforce something along those lines, right? Because there's always going to be loopholes. You have these team doctors and stuff like that. You don't think that, hey, LeBron, you're having back strains tonight, right? And it's like, all right, like, so what? That means you have to keep them out 2 games rather than 1, right? Or like at the end of the season, right? You get like the last handful of games. You get those teams that are locked up, right? We saw it even this past year, Denver, teams like that. The Suns did it, where you sit your stars because you want them healthy come playoff time, right? So the last 3 games or whatever of the season, because you're already locked up and in positioning or in seating, right? You just go and you rest your guys, and that's that, and then you're ready to go for the playoffs. Well, this would make it so you wouldn't be able to do that, or you'd have to do, like, for example, the Phoenix Suns would have to do Kevin Durant one game, Booker the next, Kevin Durant the next game, Booker the next. You'd have to do that if you wanted to rest them for a couple games. Now, this doesn't stop tanking entirely, or not tanking, but resting entirely, right? Because one, it's 2 stars at the same time. So you could rest Anthony Davis for a stretch of games and then rest LeBron for a stretch of games. This just means a couple things. This just means, one, teams will have to be more strategic on how they go about these things. And the other thing is, I fall back to, I don't see how this works, right? Like, what are the parameters? And look, maybe we get this information and maybe it makes more sense once they actually do the voting. But what are the parameters that say that these guys aren't injured, they're just purposely resting? So again, like, okay, so if you're going to rest Anthony Davis on a game and LeBron on one of the games of back-to-backs, right? Well, so what? Now you just rest them both games because now they get 3 days off, and so might as well, right? It's like, okay, well, especially if the Lakers have good seating, it's what teams do. And I know there's some people watching this video that are like, well, you just don't rest them or whatever. It's not the league we live in anymore, right? Like, who is playing 82 games anymore, right? Like, it's usually the role guys that, are only getting 10 minutes a game that are playing 82 games. And then like Mikal Bridges, right? Mikal Bridges seems to be that guy. But like, we're just in an NBA where teams rest players. Players get nights off, right? And I do completely get it's a problem, right? I do get, you have all these people, all these families, everything that are using their last dollars or using, money that they've saved over the course of a year to go and see LeBron play, go and see Anthony Davis play, go and do X, Y, and Z at these games. And I get it too, right? Like if I went to a Laker game and LeBron and AD didn't play, I'd be pretty upset, right? It's like, damn, like that, like they're the draw, they're the allure, they're what makes fans go and put butts in the seats, right? And I get that, but it's one, it's just part of the league, and two, the ultimate goal is to have guys healthy come playoff time. And you look at this Lakers roster, and this roster is built perfectly for LeBron James, right? Like this roster, I made a video about this, what was it, yesterday, where I talked about how this roster is built to perfection for LeBron. This roster is good enough, deep enough, and have a ton of guys that play his position to where they're going to allow him to kind of just coast through the season, right? I mean, he's still going to go get his 20 plus because it's LeBron James, but for the most part, he's going to be able to just coast this season. He's going to be able to take nights off, and the Lakers are still going to be good enough and are still going to be deep enough to where it's not going to hurt and damage the team. LeBron's not going to have to go and put up 30 a night just for us to be competitive and still lose the game like it was last year. And this team is tailor-made for LeBron. He's older, going to be 39, year 21. You have a young roster that is more than capable of putting on the miles and playing the minutes for LeBron and would be more than happy to play the minutes, right? And Anthony Davis, if he's going to play primarily the 4, well, then we still have got enough roster and depth and talent to where Anthony Davis could take nights off and Anthony Davis could rest, and not have to rush back. Like these guys, if they do get an injury or something, right? Knock on wood, nothing major, but if they get a little nagging injury or something like that, then it's like, okay, well, we can rest them. Well, now it's like, well, if we were going to rest them a game and then have them play the next game, well, now it's like, okay, well, we've got to rest them 2 or 3 games. And I'm wondering how much of an impact this has on just the league period, but also the Lakers, right? Look, I imagine LeBron plays 30 or 65 games regardless. I don't see LeBron playing less than 65 games because LeBron's going to want the accolades or to be able to qualify for those accolades, right? If you don't play at least 65 games, then you're not able to get all of the things like the All-NBA teams and stuff like that. And LeBron has streaks and history and things like that he's going to want to do. He's going to want to be in year 21 and be on an All-NBA team and all that, right? So I don't see LeBron playing less than 65 games, but there could be circumstances where both guys are dealing with nagging injuries. LeBron is 39 or gonna be 39 years old in year 21, right? Like if he's having a little nagging injury, you don't want him having to overexert himself and it becomes a bigger injury, right? Like, if he was 26, it'd probably be a lot different. And he's coming off of a foot injury that may or may not have had him have surgery on, right? I mean, he said himself, we'll never know if it did. So, and he's a guy that would be capable of making sure no one knew. But it's just like, I get the idea is you want to make these guys play, right? You don't want these guys sitting out. But one, how many teams have 2 all-stars on their team? And or 2 all-NBA players or whatever. So it's not gonna impact all the teams. But even then, like, that's not gonna stop resting entirely. Right? And I don't know. I don't know what the fix is. Right? I get you want to make sure guys are on the basketball court because they're being paid to play the game of basketball. And there was a time in our league where guys did play every game, right? And you had guys that never missed games. Guys, I mean, Kobe, right? Kobe had an Achilles, and he's out there shooting, free throws and stuff, and asking Gary Vee, like, hey man, like, am I able to pull it back up? Like, like, can you tape it up? Like, there were those guys. We're not in that league anymore. And, look, people like to poke and make fun of LeBron and whatnot. LeBron still plays more games than like half the stars in this league. And he's also, again, going to be 39 in year 21, right? Like, and even Anthony Davis, people call him Mr. Glass and whatnot. And he's even played more games than like half the stars in this league. It's not like a LeBron and AD thing. It's not even just a Kawhi and Paul George thing. It's just our league. The days of teams wanting their guys to play 48 or 82 games and play all these minutes and all that stuff, they don't want to. You hear the reports and the stories all the time of organizations saying like, hey, tonight we're going to rest. And then you also have tanking, right? To where these stars, like we saw with Dallas, hey, let's sit Kyrie and Luka, right? So that way we can get a better draft pick. And it's just, so what, you're going to fine them? All right, like some of these organizations would probably rather just take the fine and rest these guys. Like Phoenix, if they're locked up in the 1 seed and their owner, who he'll write the checkbook, or even, Steve Ballmer, you don't think Steve Ballmer's like, hey, fine me $50K, right? Like, who cares? Like, I'm trying to win a championship here, right? Like, that's the thing. I don't know why, like, these things never really change anything, right? Like, the NBA, you made the change at the 65 game thing, right? And I still don't think that that's going to be a big thing, because some of these guys that don't really care. There are guys that don't care about the all NBA teams or necessarily being an all-star or whatever, right? Or you get these guys that are borderline, like that are regardless, right? Like Kawhi Leonard, he cares more about his health and making sure that he's 100% than he does having to play 65 games to be an all-star. Like we're just in this league. And unless you have players that are willing and wanting to actually show up and play every single game, it's just not going to happen. It's the world we live in. But I'm curious to see how this impacts the Lakers and just all the teams. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think that this has an impact around the league? Do you think this affects the Lakers in any way? Love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let me know down in the comments.